This meeting will be called to order. Everyone stand for the salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. The roll call, please.
Commissioner Bradshaw,
Present.
Commissioner Helms, Commissioner Martin,
Here.
Commissioner Patillo,
Here.
Commissioner Gillette.
Here.
We have a quorum.
The first thing on our agenda, is this supposed to be spoken? Planning and Zoning Subcommittee.
I don't believe it has to be read.
Oh, like the automated announcements?
Well, they have the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee may by motion recess into executive session. Is that supposed to be read?
I don't think we're going to need that today.
Okay, good. And so then the first thing on our agenda, Scott, is this you?
Madam Chair, no, Matthew Gunderson will be presenting today.
All right, so today's meeting is to go over the two community meetings that we had last month. So the first one is going to be kind of the north of Kingman, south of the Grand Canyon area, so mainly the communities of Dolan Springs, White Hills, and Meadview. And so we'll kind of go into that. So the comments that we've received so far for this area, there were a lot of comments regarding wind and solar projects, that the energy provided by those projects be kept local to power Mojave County communities. And just to clarify, that is one of our proposed updates to the goals and policies within the general plan, and something that was discussed at the meeting to kind of prioritize those projects that keep the energy here in Mojave County. And so that is something that we can do via goals and policies, and not really through land use designations that we'll talk about later. And then there were also comments about making clear delineations between residential and commercial uses. There were concerns about people turning commercial buildings into residences, and then concerns about road maintenance, and that given the status of some of the roads in the areas, that future growth may harm those existing roads. And again, those are things that we can address through the goals and policies of the general plan. As far as the actual land use designations, a large portion of the White Hills area and to a lesser extent the Dolan Springs area were recently updated by the Entrada project, which was a major plan amendment that was done this past year. And then while there are currently some discrepancies between the zoning and the general plan land use, especially along Pierce Ferry Road, and we'll kind of get into that in a little bit, there's a stretch of commercial land use designation along Pierce Ferry Road. I think in general that makes sense to keep the commercial areas on Pierce Ferry Road, but the land use doesn't always match the zoning in those situations. And then both Meadview and the White Hills community that is up White Hills Road, kind of those platted residential areas, are both outlying communities, and those don't require plan amendments at the moment. So, like I said, we'll kind of talk a little bit about Pierce Ferry Road here in a second, but at this time, staff is not proposing any updates to those land use designations. So, here is Dolan Springs. So you'll see the red is our general commercial land use designation. So in a previous general plan update that was done, basically they drew a line on both sides of Pierce Ferry Road, regardless of where parcels were, and just extended that line all the way up for those 7+ miles of Pierce Ferry Road there, and just said this area is general commercial. There is a purple stretch here, which is public facilities. That is also property that is owned by the Bureau of Land Management. So that is not privately owned property. So we've had over the past few years, properties that are coming in and trying to split their property that either is fronting on Pierce Ferry Road or just off of Pierce Ferry Road. And they're having to go through a plan amendment process to kind of either basically choose either a suburban development area for residential lots or a general commercial area or general commercial land use designation for commercial uses, because their property kind of is segmented by those different land use designations. So one potential option that we could do would be to go into all those properties along Pierce Ferry Road and either make all of the properties that physically front Pierce Ferry Road as general commercial, and then the ones that don't, make those residential, or we could keep it as is with kind of this just a dimensional buffer, and then as people come in to develop their properties, they're going to have to rezone them anyway and kind of tackle that rezone and that plan amendment process at the same time. To be honest, I think there's pros and cons to both of those options. So staff doesn't feel strongly in either direction, but wanted to let the subcommittee know that there are kind of both of those options there moving forward. I don't know if we want to pause there, if anyone has any comments or wants to discuss that a little bit further. If not, we can move on to some of the other areas.
Any questions?
All right. Well, then we will jump on up to White Hills. So again, this was through that Entrada project. A lot of these different colors stemmed from that major amendment. This purple color is an urban development area, which would allow for commercial uses or residential communities that are less than 1 acre in size. I mentioned the White Hills area being an outlying community. That is up here where you actually see where it says White Hills. So these are the original platted subdivisions. Most of those are 1 acre lots in all of those sections, which typically is a suburban development area. Right now it has a rural development area land use designation. But by keeping it an outlying community, essentially those communities can continue to develop as they are currently without having to go through the plan amendment process. I think we would like to keep that for those properties up there, kind of up the mountain. And then as you go down the hill through here, this is the area where we would need to do those updates moving forward. We do have a lot of commercial along Highway 93 in this area. This is along Highway 93 is an area that we've seen a lot of growth recently. There's more gas stations. There's more restaurants going in up there. We have site plan reviews for a couple more restaurants in that area. So that is definitely an area that is growing there. And then we have the proposed airport development area just north of White Hills Road, and then some suburban land use designations as well for potential future growth in that area. You'll see the striped area up here. That is the alternative energy designation for the wind farm that is currently up there. Also, just at the south end, so this area of that wind farm, there is an approved BLM variance for a new solar project that's going to be going in up in that area as well. And then the Meadview area is also all a rural development area land use designation. So again, this one, similar to that White Hills area, as long as the growth is going to continue on the same path that it's been going, those in this area are not required to do general plan amendments, and we think that still fits pretty well for this area. There are some commercial uses along Pierce Ferry Road and then also within Meadview, but as long as they're kind of keeping in that same pattern, we don't have any concerns with the continued growth as it has been. So that is pretty much it for those three areas. So the next one is Yucca. So again, we'll pause if there's any comments or discussion that we want to have on those areas, and if not, then we can move on over to Yucca.
You mentioned an airport area out in White Hills.
Mm-hmm.
Does that interfere at all with their current fly-in airport there? Is it part of it? What?
Chairman Gillette, Commissioner Patillo. So there is, so right now, there's a big dirt strip out there, which is an approved FAA landing strip. So they have that approval for the landing strip already. It's not the same as the Triangle Air Park, which is just a little bit to the south, so this is separate from that. I don't know enough about those airports. I would imagine, depending on the future size of the airport, it may start to interfere with that, but I couldn't tell you at what point that becomes an issue.
Any other questions?
All right, if not, we'll go over to Yucca. So this is kind of the overall Yucca area. We have had two previous area plans in this area. So there was the Yucca area plan that was kind of the old town site of Yucca, the proving grounds, and a little bit north, and then kind of south of Alamo Road here, where Alamo Road runs east and west, and south and to the east is the Dutch Flat area plan. So there's kind of both of those previous area plans where a lot of these designations were made within those area plans. And so they don't necessarily match in a lot of places with the actual current development. So we're proposing a few updates here to kind of bring those in line with what's currently out there. So a lot of the comments we received from the Yucca meeting and afterwards is to keep the larger parcels and the rural feel of the area. There's a few sections of commercial recreation designations that are northeast of Alamo Road. We received several comments on not wanting commercial recreation in that area and instead leaving it as rural and residential. And then there was a lot of comments about keeping the commercial and industrial uses along Interstate 40. We did receive a few comments calling for no industrial uses at all, but I would say the majority are to keep it along any industrial and commercial uses, to keep it basically as close to I-40 as we can. And then there were also concerns about the need for additional fire and sheriff services and road maintenance and infrastructure, and concerns about campgrounds near homes and wanting to keep those separate. So based on those comments and then looking at the area, we're proposing to change a lot of that area that's in the Dutch Flat, was part of that Dutch Flat area plan, to a rural development area, which again is just as a reminder is basically the rural area encompasses residential lots that are 5 acres or larger. And then, so there's a lot of that's going to be changed to that. And then in the old Yucca townsite area, there's a lot of it was medium density residential and some of it is commercial, but the zoning is all RA, which is a general zoning in that area, which allows for both single family residential uses and general commercial uses. And so our proposal would be to change that area with those A zones to an urban development area, kind of reflect being able to do either residential or commercial to match the zoning that's in the area. And so that way, if people rezone in the future, whether they choose to go the residential route or the commercial route, they wouldn't have to do a plan amendment again to switch it back and forth. It would just, that urban development area designation would allow for both of those types of uses. And then the current proposal would be to leave the areas along I-40 for industrial, commercial, and commercial as they currently are. So here is the North Yucca area. So this right here is kind of a zoomed in area of those A zones that I was talking about. So I-40 is essentially the dividing line. So everything west of I-40 is medium density residential, but we do have several commercial uses because the zoning allows for that in that area. And then everything on the other side up to the proving grounds is neighborhood commercial, except for these two parcels here that were changed through plan amendments previously. So one was changed to light industrial, the other was to general commercial to allow for the C2H or highway commercial zone. And so the proposal here would be to change those to an urban development area. And then this is the Dutch Flat area. So again, so along I-40, the blue is industrial. So there's a lot of industrial designations along I-40. and then some general commercial in here as well. This hashed area here is light industrial or a planned unit development with pockets of neighborhood commercial. So the proposal would be to change all of that to a rural development area. All of those parcels in that area are larger. Most of them are range from 10 to 40 acre parcels and are zoned agricultural residential. Same thing with this kind of orangish brown color here. That's a medium density residential designation. But again, all those parcels are larger in size and are zoned agricultural residential. And then if further south, this is Alamo Road. This is that commercial recreation area that we received a lot of comments about. And then we also have pockets of neighborhood commercial along Alamo Road. I think in kind of planning for intense development in the future, having commercial pockets along a main road like Alamo Road did make sense. However, the actual development that's been happening out there stays the very large parcels. And so hasn't been any commercial development in any of those areas. So our proposal will be to change those back to a rural development area. So here's what it would look like, kind of the proposals that we're changing. So we keep the blue industrial along I-40. This gray color here is the Old Yucca area. That's the urban development area designation. The solid green and the green lines are suburban development areas, which is the parcels that are 1 acre to 5 acres in size. And there are smaller lot sizes already in those areas. So those make sense to keep. We do have commercial, the red commercial in those areas as well. And again, I think that those are close to I-40, so those fit with a lot of the comments that we received. And then you'll see the Dutch Flat area that we're basically changing to the rural development area to keep those parcels larger, 5+ acres and residential. So here's kind of a side-by-side. You'll see a lot of the changes is just going to be in this area here, changing that to a rural development area, and then a little bit of change up there. So that is what we're proposing for Yucca. I feel that this matches pretty well the general comments that we've received, and I think it brings it a lot more in line with the development that we've seen over the last 10 years.
I have a question. Sure. Is there plans to put a road between Havasu Heights on 95 to 40? I've heard that from multiple people that there was maybe something planned for that. I am not aware of any current plans to do that. To be honest, I think it would need to take a lot of coordination with the Bureau of Land Management because there is a lot of BLM property in that area. I do know that there are a lot of off-road vehicles that will make that drive between Yucca and Havasu Heights. BLM has trails in that area. I'm not aware of any plans to turn those trails into full-on roads to allow standard traffic between there. Anyone have anything they want to say about? Looks to me like well thought out. I don't have any. Well, that concludes my presentation then. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, if I just may add, really I'm grateful for staff and all the work that they put into this. If you notice, we really do take into consideration the comments that we receive from the community. So Dolan Springs, they're pretty happy with what is currently there. They had a lot of comments on what they don't want, like the solar and the wind, but that's not. And we are making changes in the general plan in regards to some of the infrastructure or the energy projects in Mojave County and our goals and policies in that sense. But as far as the land designations, they were pretty happy with what they had. Yucca did come out with quite a bit of changes that they wanted to propose, and that's what you see reflected as well. Staff is in support of both communities and their comments and going forward with this general plan amendment. But we want to thank you for taking a look at it and any comments or feedback that you guys have as well. So thank you.
An internal of present.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll send that to you, to everybody on the
Really nice.
committee.
If we have no more questions, thank you so much for all your work. I know this has been a lot of time. I'm going to call to the public. Is there anyone that wishes to speak? Seeing no one, then I'm going to call this meeting adjourned.
Just as one added thing, so we do have 2 community meetings this week. So we have our Kingman meeting, which will be here tonight in this auditorium, and then we'll be meeting in Wiki Up tomorrow evening. So those are the next 2 that we have, and we'll discuss those at next month's sub.
It's unfortunate. It's quite a drive for me, all the way from Havasu